Hey everyone, welcome back to Milk Drunk. I'm your host, Tabria Majors, and joining me on the show today is Michael Perry, a proud father of 2 sons and the founder and CEO of Maple, a cutting-edge family technology company focused on improving life for parents. Maple's free all-in-one household management app helps families run smoother and grow closer. And it's been featured in and has already been named one of the best apps for parents by Apple and highlighted in the Wall Street Journal and Mashable for transforming life for parents. Before founding Maple, Michael designed Kit, an AI virtual marketing assistant, which he sold to Shopify, and worked as the company's director of product marketing technology. Michael has been recognized by Forbes, Inc. magazine, and Business Insider for his role as an emerging leader and influencer in marketing, tech, and AI. And Maple has raised one of the largest seed investments in the family tech market. Welcome to Milk Drunk, Michael. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I gotta try to shorten that bio down. I'm sorry about that. We could do better than that.
No. Everyone has an extensive bio, but I love it. It's very thorough and it tells us everything we need to know. So it's great.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, same. I can't wait to get into your company and all that. But first, I want to talk about your family life and your wife's pregnancy journey and all of that. First of all, how old are your kids?
So my oldest son is 5. He adamantly believes he's 5.5.
Oh.
But he's 5, and my youngest son is 3.
Okay, nice. He's holding on to that half. That's so funny.
He's dialed in. He for whatever reason, it's kind of heartbreaking. He is, he's definitely a daddy's boy, but he is very excited about like becoming older.
Really?
It's wild. Like
I love that.
Really, I think because my wife's cousin recently moved to where we live, and she's 18 going to school here. And, so he's getting a lot of like teenage exposure now. It feels like he wants to be like one of the big kids and go do the college thing.
He's already ready to go to college. That's so funny.
It's killing me.
That's awesome. Well, you've been open with your family's journey about IVF, and I think it's really important to shine light on fertility, especially from the aspect of a dad, or from the perspective of a dad. What made you want to share your journey with that?
I think in some ways it was a bit accidental. When my wife and I found out that we were not going to be able to naturally conceive children, it's really hard to, if you've never been on that side of the table of a conversation, it's really hard to understand how heartbreaking that is. There's a certain level of pain when someone tells you that like, maybe the thing that matters most to you may not be happening, or at least in the way you thought it was going to be happening. And so when my wife and I went through our IVF journey, I struggled individually in understanding how I needed to show up as a partner. And when we announced our pregnancy, we felt like it was a great opportunity to shed light in the era that we live in where everything looks so great from the exterior, right? Like if you looked at my wife and my Instagram accounts, you would probably think that we had it all.
Yeah.
But I can't even tell you how many baby showers we were invited to where we had to really emotionally rally each other to go be happy for somebody else.
Yeah.
When we were living this kind of quiet secret that like we may not be having a family. And so when we announced our pregnancy and announced with it that we were thankful for the research and the dedication that had gone into shaping IVF and making it accessible to our household, it was almost entirely unexpected the volume of people who privately messaged us and reached out with the experiences that they were on. And people reaching out, expressing that their partners were struggling. And so at that point, I think we just like, my wife and I decided that, family creation is unique for everybody. There is no one size fits all in today's world. A lot of people, 1 in 3 women have a reproductive problem that they're dealt with and facing. You have a lot of people in the LGBTQIA community who depend on science to build a family. And we just felt like it was a great opportunity to extend the olive branch and be there for other people who were potentially going through really hard times. And it was a great decision that we made in that moment that I'm thankful for.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative of that. And I'm sure your followers and everyone else are too, because especially you never hear the dad story,
Yeah.
and your feelings are just as valid as ours. And I think we kind of let dads kind of fall to the wayside, which, in turn is just putting more and more pressure on moms. We don't really consider them as much even in the postpartum space or, the prenatal space. So I really love having you here today and just getting your perspective on everything. I think it's going to be very enlightening for a lot of people.
I appreciate it. And yeah, I think that when we were going through it, I, on a personal level, felt horrifically guilty
Mm,
because my wife was going through physical and emotional hell,
yeah.
and which oftentimes people don't recognize that, their partner is injecting. I'm giving my wife shots, and I'm watching her go through it, and I'm watching the scar tissue be built, and I'm watching the bruising happening, and I'm watching the sacrifice that's going into trying, and I'm there picking somebody up off of the floor when they have a miscarriage because you're not going to have 100% success with IVF.
Yeah.
And it's just a very lonely world, and a very heavy world in terms of the just genuine guilt you're navigating as a partner. And so anyone that's listening who's going through it, I'm accessible just as a friend, just
Yeah.
as a human here on earth. And I think I've been able to approach parenting in such a special way because of IVF. I'm super thankful we became IVF parents.
Yeah. I I'm sure that you had to be that crutch for your wife during that time, but how did you take care of your own mental health? Like, what
No, I think that
resources did you use or anything? Do you have any tips or anything?
I mean, I think that was part of the decision making of being open about it, because I don't think
Mhm.
that existed. I don't think there's a lot
Mm.
of great partner groups out there for the person who's, essentially like a sideline player for the
Yeah.
process. It was a really I mean, I didn't expect for the conversation to go here right off the bat. You guys are not playing out
I know,
here.
sorry.
We're going just deep. I'm trying to hold back some tears right now. It was,
Oh.
I would say it was some of the, probably like on a personal level, some of the darker moments in my life. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, let me keep it light. I don't want you to be sad here. I want to
I'm not
celebrate,
sad. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's just
Yeah.
that I think what's wild is, and again, IVF has been such a wonderful North Star for me, because in the process, like so many things, we've now as a society have greatly shift towards instant gratification.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and IVF is one of these things that really forces a tremendous amount of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
My gratitude cannot be articulated for the generations of women who subjected themselves to the worst of the worst and allowed for research to take place, because without them, without these unknown heroes, I don't have two sons.
Yeah.
Right. So there's tens of thousands of women I never get to properly thank. So it's deep to me, because my children are the pinnacle of my human existence. And I don't have them without the sacrifice of so many people. And the one closest to me I share four walls with. But this is IVF children took generations of sacrifice for them to be here in a really beautiful way.
I've never even thought about it like that, but it's really profound and beautiful when you do consider that, It's not something that just happened one day. It took decades of research to achieve.
Decades of research, decades of heartbreak,
Yeah.
decade. I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't get to come out the other end, but they did it so that I could.
Yeah.
Right. So I think part of the problem with where we're at in the world today is that we've lost our sight of gratitude for what we had to do to get here. The makeup of our lives is built on the shoulders of other people.
Yeah, just going back to that instant gratification. I mean, we have everything that we want right at our fingertips nowadays.
Crazy.
And yeah, we really don't exercise patience anymore. And I'm not saying I want people to have to go through IVF to experience
No, of course
patience,
not. Of course not.
but I mean, it's it's definitely something to think about. I know a lot of women who've gone through IVF, and it's a painful process, and
It's no joke.
it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. It can take years and years for, a successful pregnancy to take. So, yeah, I commend you and your wife for being able to go through that and coming out on the other side having a, successful story. Unfortunately, that's not everyone's reality,
It's
but
not. It's not
yeah.
everyone's reality. So, and shout out to my wife, Alex Perry, for just being insane on every level.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll hear this podcast at some point. So thank you, sweetheart.
Oh. Well, I want to ask, because when I talk to moms on here, it's kind of, just varies, but what's the thing that you remember most about your wife's labor with either of your sons? Is it because, for a lot of
Well,
women, it's just a blur and some people remember
yeah.
every detail. So what about you?
So my wife's the birth of our first son was a vaginal birth, and my wife had to be induced. And I guess like what and this sounds almost weird to say, but it's like anything, if you've never experienced it before, you don't really know what to experience. I think I had like this Hollywood version of like, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go in there, we're going to walk out of there, we're going to have a baby in our arms there.
Yeah.
And I think kind of two things kind of took place. One was I was surprised by the process. I wasn't ready for that because I felt like there was a lot of like just a lot of nervous energy, which you don't want to bring nervous energy around a brand new baby. You know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
lot of like wrong level setting. The second thing, which maybe this comes as a surprise to you, it was the weirdest moment of my life because in my mind, my wife and I were co-founding a child together.
Mm.
This was her and my baby.
Yeah.
And the hospital doesn't view it that way, right? I'm a guest of
Interesting.
the patient who's delivering a baby. I'm not being treated.
Mm.
It was a weird moment because it played a role in the birth of Maple. It played a role in a weird way on the journey that I'm on now. But it was a very weird moment where I realized my wife and I had been together as of now almost 20 years. We had been together 13 plus years before we had children. And instantly the world viewed her radically different than they viewed me.
Mm. That's
She was a
interesting.
caregiver to another child. She was mom. She was the patient. I was a guest.
Interesting.
Right.
I've
So I
never,
sat on the
yeah.
sidelines while the staff was giving, once our child was born, instructing her on how to take care of our child. And I remember thinking, like, well, I'm not just like a bag of rocks.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You're
planning
the
on
dad.
changing diapers too.
Yeah.
And I'm planning on feeding my son too. And like, I'm not just going to be a weekend fun dad. And
Right.
it made me realize that like at a societal level, like the tone is inappropriately set the second your child comes to earth. Like from day
Yeah.
one, and my wife, there's like, this is your baby. This is how you're going to care for your baby. Let's help you. And for 24 hours, figure this shit out before we send you packing.
Yeah. Moms are always the default parent.
Mom is the
And
default, but the default is set. No one talks about this. The default
hmm
is set at the hospital.
yeah.
Right. And so like for me, I had a really big issue in our experience with the fact that like I wasn't this always comes off wrong because I'm a man and I didn't deliver the baby,
Hmm.
but I was treated as a different class citizen in the process of us delivering a baby.
Mm.
If that makes any sense.
No, it
And I just
does. It does.
it profoundly impacted me because I just thought like this is not right.
So I ended up having a home birth. It's what we planned for. So I had
Amazing.
my midwives there along with my boyfriend. And it's interesting because it never felt like that. Even
Yeah.
the energy from my midwives never felt like that. And they very much viewed us as a team.
Yeah.
And he was my coach helping me get through it, along with, their assistants as well. But I remember after she was delivered, we had some skin to skin time, and then I had to deliver the placenta.
Yeah.
And they made sure that Trey got his skin to skin as well. They
Yeah.
were like, make sure, take your shirt off, get your
Yeah.
skin to skin as well. And he had like an hour of time of just holding our daughter when she was born.
Yeah.
And I just never even considered like it starts at the hospital because and all the birth stories I've heard, you guys really aren't mentioned now that I just
But that's what I'm
recall.
saying is that like, first of all, beautiful on you to have that experience at home. I think my wife and I feel confident to say, we're probably not having any more children, but that's an incredible experience to get to take on. That wasn't the path that we went. And a lot of the reasons, I think oftentimes what doesn't get additionally talked about with IVF is that like your entire pregnancy is different.
Yes.
Not just getting pregnant, but like the entire journey of like check-ins, the frequency of which you're going, the chemical and drug changing for the first 90 days, the blood test work, just everything is so different that we didn't even think about that as an option. We're going to continue with our medical staff at UCSF and God bless them for helping us, bring a child onto earth. But yeah, I just found and of course, like the second my son was born, my entire world changed. But like, I just remember that piece of it being like, this is wild.
Yeah. So this is a Bobbie podcast, and we always ask everyone about their feeding journey. Can you tell us about what you and your wife did in terms of feeding?
We actually have used Bobbie as a product, which was awesome with our second son. I don't think that the product was out and available with our first son just yet. My wife breastfed both of our children, and we obviously supplemented occasionally with formula. She did pump with my first son, but did not pump with my second son, which was also really different because I was way more involved in the feeding experience with my first son than I was with my second son, which there's a whole different conversation of sadness in terms of just like the beauty of that relationship and experience of being able to hold your child in your arms and feed them.
Yeah.
And then, obviously as they got older and transitioned off of breast milk or formula, we slowly introduced them to different foods, and eventually they started eating like little humans from a plate. But yeah, my wife breastfed both of our kids, and I bottle fed our first son and occasionally bottle fed our second son. But that was our path.
Did you have any preconceived notions about formula prior to getting into all of that?
I don't know if I could say I had preconceived notions. I think there's a certain level when you're only caring for yourself, you're only thinking about what's going in your body. And I think like any parent, everyone jokes about the first 15-minute drive home from the hospital. I mean, it sounds like you got lucky, you skipped that commute home. But that first 15-minute drive, you drive slower than you've ever driven in your entire adult life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that when, at least in our household, there's this moment of like, what are we putting in our kid's body? And I think we still now we've, not to go completely off the Richter here, but like we have chickens now. We try to source our own eggs. As a result of that, we grow our own vegetables.
I love that.
We're living like the country bumpkin dream out here in Santa Barbara, California.
That's awesome.
And so I think that, Bobbie's obviously a premium product, and you want to be able to provide your children with whatever is within your financial means, the best that you can do. And it starts with what you're able to provide with them from a nourishment perspective.
Well, now I want to talk about your company's birth story. Can you tell me about Maple and how you came to find it and the idea where it came from?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like any industry or any craft, there's always a series of personas that fit the job. And in my world as a founder, I believe the best founders are ones that serve a life of servitude, that they are just so mission obsessed, and they know who their customer is, and they just are willing to do whatever it takes for that customer. For ages, my life of servitude, my dedication to my craft was serving entrepreneurs and building technology for small business owners. That was like, they talk about BC and 80. That was life before children. I was really focused on building technology for entrepreneurs. I had some success early in my life, and I think that when you have like a financial successful moment, there is like a bit of a lost identity that comes along the way with that. And I think when all this was happening, and when we found out that we may not be able to have a family, I think when my son was born and I held him for the first time, I got to discover who I was.
Mm.
And the air just completely was sucked out of the room. And I don't even know if I remember the version of myself before my son. That, or I just want to like erase who that person was on earth, because what I have come to realize is that we all universally share the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just being super real about it. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can build or do that the world is going to remember, but every way I show up, my children will remember.
Mm.
My job, my purpose is to be a great father. That's it. And once that reality set in, part of being a great father is being a great partner. And when I went back to work at Shopify after having my first son, I was struggling I had about a 250 person team. I was struggling to show up at an executive level and also be the man that I wanted to be for my son and for my wife.
Mm.
Like, I wasn't there in the right way. And so I started
Yeah.
looking for technology solutions that could bind us closer together to help me participate in raising our son and being a part of his doctor's appointments and schedules, and understanding the workload that was going on at home, and not being just like the role player who was a guest of the patient at the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to
Yeah.
talk that talk, you got to walk that walk. You
Yeah.
can't complain about being the guest, but then not complain about showing up.
Yeah. I feel that.
And so in that moment, I realized that there was no great technology company. Every job has gotten easier. This podcast only exists because of technology,
Yeah.
right? Every job on this planet has gotten easier with the support of technology, except for parenting. And I just decided as a technologist that if I had spent the last 10 years of my life building software to make entrepreneurship easier, what would it look like if I dedicated the rest of my life to making parenting easier?
Wow. You're just blowing me out of the water right now. That's amazing. I mean, yeah, I feel like people underestimate how hard it is,
It's crazy.
and yeah, it's a lot. And working and being a parent, I know like people have been doing it forever,
But they
but
haven't, though.
it's
That's the key. I
yeah.
actually pulled the numbers on this.
What are the numbers,
That's
please?
the important part. That's the important part that we have to address, because part of the reason why it still feels like 1950 in 2024 is because we still think that the world looks like 1950 in 2024,
Yeah, it's vastly
right?
different.
In
Yeah.
1950, 12% of moms were in the workforce. Less than
Mm,
20% of households were dual income households.
wow.
Post COVID, right now in today's world, based on census data of the Labor Bureau, 66% of moms work a full-time job. That's before COVID. There's a 3 million pullback when women went back home to care for their children in the COVID era. So the numbers are going to continue to rise. If you look out to the
Mm-hmm.
year 2050, 80% of moms are going to have a full-time job in the workforce. That is the projection. So in 1950, you had one person working, one person staying home, and one kid that didn't do extracurricular activities. In
Mm-hmm.
2024, you got two people working, and literally every single kid does like 19 different sports in America. I know
Yeah.
your kids are signed up for about 17 different things. I already can tell your kids are signed up for
Oh
about
my
17 different.
god.
Oh shit, your weekends are packed. You got something going
Oh
on every
gosh.
minute of the day, right? So now you
Yeah.
got two people who are trying to manage their careers and live life completely on the go. Mom's office no longer is the kitchen. Mom's office is the boardroom.
Yeah.
And so like we haven't kept up with the changing times.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's very difficult. Like for me, I'm a model and content creator. I do this podcast. I have my hands on a lot of different things, and I enjoy the work that I do. I genuinely do,
Yeah.
but it's always a guilt that I'm feeling, whether I'm at work or I'm at home. Like I'm not doing enough as a mom. I'm not doing enough as whatever profession I have going on at the moment. But yeah, it's a balance that I don't know if anyone will ever truly master.
I think you got to be easier on yourself
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I think it's something that every parent, is trying to figure out, how do I show up for the people professionally and how do I show up for the people that are my purpose? The one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I try to remind myself, for whatever it's worth, and I get often asked to go speak at entrepreneur classes as a failing entrepreneur like myself. Every
Oh my
once in a
God.
while, I get invited back to a university, even though I never finished school, which is always my favorite. My
Oh
favorite thing.
wow, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
and I say to these young men and women, I want you just to think about, not to say that you shouldn't be ambitious and not to say that you shouldn't care, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
what you're struggling with and what most people struggle with is like the impact
Mm-hmm.
of letting people down.
Yeah.
And I say to them, if you can tell me, and I'm guessing this is true for you too, there's one of two apps that's going to be like the number one app on your phone. It's either going to be Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah.
It's the two most widely used apps in the world in consumer technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I always offer them, if you can tell me who invented TikTok, I will write you a check for $10,000 right now.
It's not I mean I don't know his name, but is he just the CEO of TikTok, the one that I'm thinking
No.
of? Oh, there's I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you got,
So
to, you got, to, you got
just
10 grand. I was going to make a donation. But point being is, you have to think about how insanely widely scaled this app is. How many people use this app every single day, every single minute, every single second. And
yeah.
99.9% of people can't tell you who built it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I asked you to tell me what your parents did, almost everybody can answer that question with depth.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always think when it comes to time management, there has to have the humility of knowing, in the end, what we think will matter often doesn't. And what's going to truly matter, we oftentimes haven't invested enough into.
That doesn't
That's
make it
just
any
my 2 cents, by the way.
easier. I
Everyone's take on
know.
that's different, but I just try to tell myself that to stay relatively sane when I'm, trying to make my own time management decisions.
Yeah. I feel that. I mean, I also think a lot of people don't have the luxury of even having options or having
I don't.
choice, and I mean, there's so many systemic issues here that I don't in this
We
country, I
need a whole
mean.
nother podcast. We
No,
need a whole nother.
literally,
We'd have to
literally.
change it. We'd have to change this from milk drunk to some other kind of drunk, because that
I
would be a whole
know,
long, long, long conversation.
literally. Yeah, I wish things would change to make it easier for families and everybody, but
There's a lot of great people working on that.
yeah.
And I hope
Yeah.
that it does change. And we do need to reprioritize our value system in this country. And we do need
Yeah.
to try to give people better breathing room to show up to do their life's work. That's
Yeah.
just the reality of it, right? Is that I don't
Mhm.
think that we can expect people to have their cake and eat it too. We all have to have
Mhm.
jobs. We all have to show up and play our part in society. But
Mhm.
I think we oftentimes ask people in a very weird way to sacrifice from our greatest currency, which is time with our family.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's very unfortunate. But you are one of the people who is trying to make it better and make a change. So, can you tell me about Maple in general, about its functionality and what it's used
Yeah.
for?
Yeah. So like one of the, problems with parenting is the co-parenting aspect.
Mm.
Because as you know, in most households, mom is running the family calendar, which means that
Mhm.
mom is the one who's the knowledge owner of the entire home. In most households, mom is the one who's scheduling doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, taking the kids to them. In most households, mom is the grocery shopper and the cook. In most
Mhm.
households, mom is the cleaner. In most households, mom is the caregiver. And there's a lot of reasons and a lot of things that have come into play for that to exist and for that to be true, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that, as we just shared with the numbers, mom isn't just all of those things. Mom's also fully employed.
Mhm.
And so, like, there's a huge, while we do see an uptick in dads participating, there's a huge gap between dad's involvement in home and the caregiving and moms. And so, what we've created at Maple is what we believe the most powerful platform that helps parents reduce scheduling conflicts, reduce the bottleneck of information living inside of one person's mind, and to create a more equitable and fair division of labor at home on the work that needs to go into running the household and create better visibility into that work. And we
Mm-hmm.
feel really good about what we've created for a 3-year-old company. We're in 16 different countries. We've had over 100,000 downloads. To your point, Apple has said we're one of the top app for parents. We've been recommended by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Mashable. We've been widely covered as a very cutting edge piece of technology to allow for better equity at home. But what it
Mm-hmm.
also requires is for people to have the desire to establish better equity at home. That is the missing piece of the equation. If you do not believe fundamentally that equity and equality within our relationship should exist, then there's no problem that we can solve for you. If
Mm-hmm.
you do believe that it exists and that you do believe that you didn't marry an employee or you're spending your life with somebody who's the only person at home caring for everything by themselves, then we've built something that allows you to work as a unified team.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. I took a look at it and I genuinely think I'm going to use it in my everyday life because right now we use a combination of sharing calendars and just sending a million texts back and forth every day. And it's not efficient. And I think having a one stop shop where you can just, look at everything on the docket for the day or for the week or the month, it's just everything's right there. No questions asked. If you see something that needs to be done, do it.
I
So,
think that,
yeah.
the way that you guys have, like, in a really beautiful way, normalized this idea of not having to breastfeed, right? Breastfeeding is
Mhm.
a really great option. Formula is also a really great option. You have to do what's right for your family, but we have to kill these bad stigmas associated to them. I
Mhm.
think that there's a very weird stigma around using technology to make your relationship work better.
Yeah, I
There's
agree with
nothing
that.
natural about, like, the most important thing any one person can do is invest in their personal relationships.
Mhm.
The one that you are raising children with is the number one relationship to work on every day,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't think that there should be any shame in taking on technology to make life more efficient, more streamlined, and separate, social conversations from, like, a work conversation about what needs to be done at home.
Can you tell me what you and your wife's favorite functionality of the app is or what you use the most in your household on it?
I would say there's probably like three things that we use a lot. The calendar we is a daily use for us. We have two boys. They both go to different schools right now. My son has, surfboard practice on 2 different days of the week. My other son has tennis practice 2 different days of the week. My younger son's still in swim lessons. They're on different
Yeah.
school schedules. They have different social groups now because they're 3 and 5 and in different schools.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, like, our house, it has to be calendared and run like a small business,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, we're just running around frantic and stressed out. My wife is also building her own little empire and she's taking meetings and she's away from the house and she's working. So I think that our calendar is, like, insane. The fact that, like, my work calendar feeds into it, there's just so much visibility into what's going on in everybody's life every single day, from, like, the actual schedules to the to-dos that surface inside the calendar. So we use our calendar. We, like, live and die by Maple's calendar.
Mhm.
Um, the folder organizational aspect, we oddly use, like, a lot in a very disposable way. So Maple's whole architecture is built around, like, getting organized through folders. So,
Okay.
like, we just went on a Yosemite camping trip, which I don't know where you're at in the great state, but Yosemite's amazing. Shout out to
Yeah.
Yosemite. Shout out to
Yeah.
our national parks. Like, Yosemite's tight. Um, we had a Yosemite folder, and it allowed for us to plan this trip completely asynchronous. So, like, I'm on
Hmm.
my phone, adding a couple things here and there, things that we needed to book, park tickets, our packing list, added a weather tile. She's in there adding our reservation information at the place we were staying at. And so, without us having to, like, put everything on her shoulders or everything on my shoulders, we had full transparency of how we could collaborate together on something small like a camping trip, but it's been big like a birthday party. And when the
Huh.
folders are done, we just archive them and move on and call it a day. But, like, it has completely transformed the expectation that my son's birthday party is going to be planned entirely by my wife. You ask 99% of dads. I
Yeah.
guarantee I will put that $10,000 bet back on the table. How many dads from top to bottom have planned a birthday party for their kids? I'm going to bet anything, unless
Yeah.
they're a single father. I'm going to bet
Yeah.
anything. It's sitting near 0%,
Yeah, I'd agree with
right?
that.
And so, like, why is it my wife's responsibility
Mhm.
to plan my 3-year old son's birthday party? It's our responsibility to plan that party. He's our son, not her son. And so I very much value what we have built for two working people to share the load in providing for our children.
I can't wait to tell my boyfriend about it and have him use it because I know he gets not annoyed, but we text each other so much throughout the day and it just seems so inefficient when it's just like a yes or no question, you know? And I do carry most of the mental load when it comes to our daughter, and I definitely think this would help alleviate that. Like he doesn't have to ask me, "When's her next doctor's appointment? When's this swim lesson?" You
For
know?
sure. All that.
Yeah.
And we're about to roll out search. That's going to be huge. We also just rolled out a feature where you can forward your emails from like your email account into Maple and it calendars them for you. There's just so
Mm.
much great stuff that we're building to just make life more free.
Yeah, I love that. So, I wanna talk about Maple, and the study they conducted with the State of Parenting report. And you did this with the Fair Play Life Policy Institute. And one of the findings was that only 15% of parents say that they feel happy, which is overwhelmingly low. That's so sad. Why do you think that percentage is so low?
Well, first of all, Eve Brodsky has been a wonderful person to partner with. And I'm very thankful for the work that she continues to do at a governmental level to continue to try, to our earlier conversation, bring more equity for parents. So shout out to everything that they're doing.
Mhm.
When I read those results, I wish I could use profanity on this show. My mother has asked me to stop saying the F word on podcasts, but I was devastated, as I'm
Yeah.
sure you were, to see that, given an option to select how you feel at the end of the day, only 15% of people said they're happy. I think that we're living in really hard times. That's just the honest truth, is that
Yeah.
like there's a lot going on in life. I think my personal take, which this could go totally off the rails, I think that Instagram has done a really unfair job of making parents feel like they got to be way more than they need to be for their kids.
Mhm.
And I think trying to keep up with the Joneses has scaled in such an insane way where it's not just about keeping up with people in your neighborhood or keeping up with people in your economic class. It's like I'm watching people on Instagram who are making their kids organic pasta that they've been cooking for 5 hours. It's like this whole different
Yeah.
level of like guilt and stress and pressure to keep up.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at the audience of people who are the majority, which were women who participate in that survey, I think it's just really hard right now. I think it's hard to keep up with this image and these unrealistic standards of newly defined beauty. I think it's impossible to keep up on the career front. I think it's impossible to be, a nutritionist and a therapist and an executive
Mhm.
coach and all these things that you're expected to be to your children and oftentimes to your spouse, let alone to yourself. And I think that my general belief is that we're doing an insane disservice um, to working women largely who are caregivers at home, whether to their children or to their parents, and in some cases both,
Mhm.
um, to like normalize that it's okay to do a little bit less.
Yes. Mhm.
And I think that like right now, when I speak, I've had the divine and unique privilege of speaking to mothers across many different countries for a couple of years now, in the hundreds, if not thousands. And I think that it's not even guilt; it's this like insane top-down pressure and weight to be everybody's everything all the time. But it's
Mhm.
just like not even realistic.
Yeah.
So I don't
And
fault them for it being 15% happy. I think it means that we got 85% of work we a lot cut out for. There's a big group of people that we got to work harder for.
yeah, I it's so true because we always want to be everything to everyone else, but we don't prioritize ourselves, especially after we have children, because we think we don't matter anymore. It's about our children, but it's so not true. It was the first episode we recorded, and it was one where I was actually interviewed for the podcast, just like as an introduction. And one of the stats mentioned was that I think it was 85%, it was high in the 80s. 85% of households were a happy household based on the mother's happiness.
That's
Like a
correct.
household they were built to set up for success if the mom was happy, essentially.
That's right.
And, when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness, that's insane, because most moms I know, they're not that happy, and it's so sad. But yeah, I mean, I wish, I don't know. I know I was really afraid to ask for help. I felt like I had to do everything by myself, or, my partner and I just had to figure it out on our own. But, parenthood will really knock you on your ass at some point, whether, you think it's going to or not. And I really got to a low point, and I just had to, swallow this pride, which is ridiculous that I even had it, and just ask for help. Hey, can you come clean? The house is a mess. Like, can you please can you come make me a meal? I'm sorry, I just don't have it in me.
You're like, I'm dying. Help me.
Yeah. And I know I wish that there was. I don't know what I can personally do for that 85%. But I just try to show up and be there for the individuals I know, because it's not easy. And I totally agree with you that social media definitely makes it harder. It could just be my algorithm, but I feel like I am seeing more people being more vulnerable and sharing the harsh realities and the not so pretty, lifestyle of parenthood and just life in general as well. But sometimes I wish there was like a mandatory limit on how long somebody can spend on social media every day.
I hope that you are right to the extent that the content creation kind of changed, and that we enter into a new area of authenticity that doesn't always exist.
Yeah.
Right. I think that would do wonders for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons and ways.
Something that would definitely make life easier for parents is inadequate leave. And unfortunately, we don't have that in this country. Were you able to take time off during the birth of your children?
Yeah, I was actually. So my first child, Leander, he's my son, who's 5.5. At that time, I was working at Shopify. Shopify is a Canadian-based company. Canada has some of the greatest parental leave known to mankind. Shopify tops it off and is even more generous than I aspire to offer my employees what Shopify can offer. Right, so they give people up to a year of paid leave to be at home with their kids. So I took 2 or 3 months, kind of broken up with my son, my first son. My second son, I didn't get to take that much time off because unfortunately it was just the process of building this company. He was born right around the time we were launching the first version of the app. But what I did is that I worked. So we offer, I think for a tiny company, a startup, a 10-person company. And my co-founder, actually, I'm very proud to say, who I also hope listens to this podcast, he just had his first son, and he took a great extended amount of time off as our co-founder and CTO of the company, which is very uncommon for a man to do at a tiny company. And really proud that he did. And we had great conversations about it. Back to the TikTok story of like, listen, the company is going to be fine. Like, don't deprive yourself of this moment. And so I worked more like a kind of a skeleton, quasi part-time stretch for a few weeks when my second son was born. And took more time off. Like, he was born in August, and then like around November, December, I took a tremendous amount of time off to be at home with my family and support at home.
Do you know a lot of dads that do get paternity leave, or do most of the dads don't?
I think that there's like two things, which again, I think you talked about this, which was, I think you said that we have to allow for men to be more emotionally available. And that was
Mm-hmm.
what you said. I don't want to misquote you, but I loved when you said that. I think that there's a very terrible, stupid stigma around men taking time off because they
Mm-hmm.
say there's nothing that you can do. Well, first
Yeah.
of all, there's a tremendous amount that you can do.
Yeah.
That's one. The second thing is that I remember right before I had my sons, my grandfather came to me and he said, just don't forget they're little for a little bit, but then they're big forever.
Yeah. Ugh, I love
And
that. That's heartbreaking.
I was like, damn,
I
like,
know.
okay, grandpa dropping like the wisdom. But I think about that then, and I still think about that now as my son comes in here and asks to give me a kiss. I never say no to loving my children. Those first few weeks when your kid can sit on your chest, like it's the shortest chapter of parenting.
I know. Yeah.
And so I think everyone, not only are they entitled to take it, I think everyone will regret not taking it.
Yeah. Do you think dads are vocal about that, or is that,
No,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think more men need to stand up for men.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that more men need to stand up for women. I think that like we unfortunately, your guys' company is led by two incredibly strong women, and God bless
Mm-hmm.
them. What incredible role models for everyone else to follow. There's not a lot of great men out there right now.
Yeah.
We are lacking male leadership severely.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a lot of cases, you have women fighting battles for men.
It's true. I think, I mean, there's tons of male leadership, but there's not adequate, well-rounded, empathetic men in positions of power, you
Yeah, that's
know?
what I'm saying. Like, there's people
Yeah.
out there, and there's people out there that hold the seats. But that doesn't mean that they're the
Yeah.
right people for those seats.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that they're great.
Yeah.
As a 38-year-old man, I have a hard time finding 50-year-old, 60-year-old men that I look up to.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's just not how it should be. God,
Mhm.
I pray at night that my sons look at me and are proud of the work that I continue to try to do for them.
Trust me, I'm sure they do, and if they don't now, they definitely will when he's finally 18.
Yeah, packing those boxes like,
Right.
thanks, peace out, thanks, old man.
Right. Really quick, since you do work from home, I work from home a lot as well. How do you manage your time working from home with your kids around? Do you guys have help? Do you, split up time between you and your wife? How does that work for you?
All of it. Super thankful, maybe for those that are privileged enough to have help, which is a huge privilege. So I hope I'm not going to get stones thrown at me because I do have a nanny. I praise her because she has played a huge role in helping support my family and played
Yeah.
a wonderful role in my son's lives. So we do have help. I walk my 5-year-old to school every single day. I don't miss that for
Oh.
anybody. I don't give a shit if the president of Google called me for a meeting. I'm not missing my walk to school with my
Oh.
son.
Yeah.
So I walk my son to school every day. I start my workday quite early to accommodate my life here at home. And I make sacrifices at nighttime so that I can continue to build a meaningful business. I don't think people would want to work my schedule. Um,
Mhm.
I have built a system, a framework of yes and no's on how I manage my time. And I have a very regiment process that I don't ever abuse or turn my back on. The sacrifice to be running a venture backed business, but not sacrificing your family is means that you have to be very intentional with every minute of your day.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we find a way, and my wife and I divide and conquer. And um, you know, as our sons have gotten older, our nanny has played kind of like a different role in terms of like helping us with grocery shopping, just other uses of time to kind of help allow for us to continue to participate in both our professional capacity and in our sons' lives.
Mhm.
I I feel so thankful. I wish that every single person could have it easier with another set of hands because we don't have the villages that we once did,
Yeah. Mhm.
and the reality of it is if you turn the clock of time back just a little bit, very few people did it by themselves.
It's so true.
Um, so I feel for those out there. I feel for I think it's 18% of single moms out there.
Mm.
It is brutally hard and exhausting. And I oftentimes say, if it's hard for me with a person that has somebody here helping, I can only imagine it gets exponentially harder from here.
Oh yeah, I can't even fathom. My boyfriend was shooting a film for like 6 weeks. And so it was just me and the baby. And oh my God, I think I lasted a week before.
You're our army crawling to bed at the end of the night.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, we need all hands on deck. And so now we're actually in the process of looking for a nanny because yeah, it's hard. Even if you have both parents there, it's hard. So yeah, it's help is definitely needed. The village needs to
It's
be
needed.
resurrected. Yeah.
We need it. We need that community love.
Last thing, Michael, do you have any parenting tips or, best parenting tip or hack you've ever heard that you'd like to share?
I don't really think anyone is in a place to really give any other parent advice.
Mhm.
But what I can say is, I think very few people will be on their deathbed and be asking for more time on the clock for their job, or more time on the clock for the party, or
Yeah.
more time on the clock to play 18 holes of golf. Most people are asking for more time on the clock to be with their kids.
Yeah.
And I think that if you just keep that North Star of sight in the moments that feel really hard, I never complained about my kid's diaper. I never complained because you know what? I also know that I don't deserve to have them.
Mm.
I had somebody tell me I was going to have none.
Ugh, oh my gosh. Mm.
Right. So, like, you got to just go into it with this, like, absurd sense of gratitude that everyone who can't have kids wishes that they had yours.
Yeah.
And at the end of your life, every person wishes the same thing.
Well, it was truly a pleasure talking to you. It was such a thought provoking conversation, and I love to get the perspective of a fellow Bobbie daddy. So please, before we go, tell us where we can find you in Maple.
I mean, I'm at Michael Perry on most platforms, but I'm pretty boring. I just post shit of my kid. I don't
Okay.
think you want to follow me. I'm not an
Yeah.
influencer. I'm not a model. I'm not
Uh,
out here. I can't cook. I'm not worth following.
yeah.
But if you follow at Grow Maple, we make product announcements regularly and try to provide resources and content
Mm.
to make your life better and easier so you can get back to doing your life's work.
Yes, I love that. And I'm making my boyfriend download Maple as soon as I get home, and we're going to use it. I'm really
I love
excited
it.
about it. Yeah. Thank you so much for everything you do. And thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. To our listeners out there, that was another episode of Milk Drunk, and I'll see you next week. Bye.